We're recording the interview of Hugh Daley. This interview is being conducted by Ericka Carter from the Wright State University Veterans Voices Project. Also in attendance are Joanne Daley and Bruce LaForce. This interview is being recorded at 2942 Needhart Road in Marion, Ohio. It is 2:55 p.m. on December 19, 2019. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you very much. How are you?
I am doing very well. I had a wonderful lunch.
Well, I'm glad. No charge.
Good stuff. When and where were you born?
September 8th, 1942. Easton, Pennsylvania. Easton. Go Red Rovers.
Go Red Rovers. Was it a big transition from Pennsylvania to here? Is it colder there than it is here?
No, it's the same.
Okay. Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
My father was a career Army officer.
And your mother?
My mother, various jobs.
And their names?
My mother, Margaret. My father, Bernard.
Did you have any siblings?
No, I did not.
You're just an only child. Did you happen to move around a lot because your father was a career?
Not because of that, because they divorced. They divorced when I was 3 or 4 years old.
Okay. Did you can stop me if I'm going too far. Was your father in any wars?
Certainly was. World War II. My mother tells me that he was in the OSS.
Did you get to see your father after that?
Very seldom. Matter of fact, I think I've only seen him about 3 times.
Okay.
He died in 1960.
Did he have any role in your becoming a military person?
Perhaps, I'm not sure.
Okay. 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 You stayed in Easton all of your childhood?
Pretty much so, yes.
All right. Did you have any hobbies in high school?
Athletics, football, wrestling,
You played those sports?
yes.
Did you enjoy them?
Yes.
When did you join the military?
I was 18.
Why?
I just want to get away from the environment I was living in. See, my father was an alcoholic, and so was my mother.
They were separated, though.
Yes, they're separated.
Did you have a stepfather?
No.
No. So what I'm hearing you say is that at either house, there were problems at either house. So you couldn't go to either house?
We need either house.
Like staying at your mother's house was a problem and your father was an alcoholic too, so there was just no place for you to go. Is that why you joined the military?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I went in the Navy.
So you're done with high school. I'm going to the Navy.
I didn't finish high school.
You did not finish high school.
I was a high school dropout.
Did they know that in the Navy when you joined, or it didn't matter?
You know, they knew I was a dropout.
What year did you join?
1960.
Okay. So the Navy said, hey, that's fine. Let's go.
Well, they required me to take placement tests. what were they calling it? GCI, and anyway, the battery test you take, and the results came back, and I was just shocked because it showed that I was a lot smarter than what I thought I was.
And so where did those tests place you?
Well, I could have gone to any school in the Navy offered.
Oh, okay. What job did you think you were going to get placed in based on the testing where you thought
I
you
was
were?
thinking I'd like to be a corpsman.
All right, so you were just, what does a corpsman do?
Give medical care.
Okay. And then you found out, I have my pick of the rain. I can be any job I want to. What job did you pick?
Electronics technician.
Oh my, we're aiming for the sky.
Well, I could have done there. I could have gone to crypto school. Like what really shocked me was the detailer said that I could go to the prep school.
Can you tell me what prep school is?
What prep school? We only have one.
Well, I'm not a Navy person. Some of our listeners may not be Navy people. Can you explain for those of us who may not know?
Well, Annapolis.
Oh, okay. So Annapolis. And that is where they send people to be officers, naval officers, right?
Naval Academy.
Naval Academy. And that's where they send really top of the line people. And you chose not to go there. You just said, I want to be...
because I knew that as a high school dropout, who was 2 years behind his class, would not make a go of it at the Naval Academy.
Okay. So electronic tech, why that job for you?
Because it was the hardest, most difficult, most rewarding.
Did you see yourself doing it after you got out of the military, or it was just a challenge?
I thought it was something I could do when I get back, when I get out.
Okay. Did it pay good money back then?
I don't know. I was in the Navy. I was making what, $40 a week as a seaman apprentice.
Okay. I mean, electronic techs make good money now.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So,
But that's all going to change over the years.
the equivalent of electronic tech these days make pretty good money.
Yes.
Okay. So you meet the recruiter, you take the tests.
Detailer.
Oh, they didn't call them
In the
recruiters?
Navy, I'm already signed up. I'm already in there. I'm going through basic training.
Oh.
Boot camp.
Okay. How was boot camp? Can you tell me about boot camp?
I don't know. You talk about these things, it makes it sound like you're blowing a horn.
Excuse me?
Yeah, well, I'm talking about it on me. All right, here's the story. I go in the Navy. I take the placement test. They tell me my score is as high as what it would get me into the Naval Academy. And I say to myself, this can't be. How's this? I'm 2 years behind in high school, and I'm a high school dropout. And I'm thinking I'm going to go to the Naval Academy? Yeah, right. So that's how I settled for the electronics technician.
Okay.
And that's just what the detailer said to me. He says, what school you want? You can get anyone you want.
I would like to know if you remember any details of basic training, like if you had kitchen duty.
Okay, all right, here's the go. When they have put the company together, the class, okay. In our class, they select one person to be the CPO. Our CPO. which is Recruit Chief Petty Officer.
Was that you?
Yes.
And so I assume that means you had extra duties. What duties were they?
Now, I was responsible for, in the absence of the drill instructor, I was responsible for the whole company. Where everyone carried rifles as part of their uniform. Part of my uniform included a saber, which was a designation for Recruit Chief Petty Officer.
How many people would that, if the drill sergeant was away, that you would be in charge of?
I don't understand. What?
So, when I was in basic training, in our company, we had 4 platoons, and a platoon had 40 people. And then in each squad, there would be a squad of 7 to 10 people. And I was like assistant squad leader, right? So I was only responsible for 7 to 10 people. You're saying you were in charge of a company, which would have been
60.
Okay. So you were in charge of 60 people if a drill sergeant was away.
And I would do the drills.
Was that a big change for you from your normal life back home? You were in charge, you were responsible.
Well, in some ways, I was, because I used to belong at one time as my lower teens. I belonged to the Civil Air Patrol. And I was Master Sergeant. And with that experience, that drill experience, that's what kind of plugged me into that position in boot camp.
So this was really new, 100% new to you.
Yes, it was.
If you'd been in Civil Patrol, you had some idea of like ranking.
Right,
and
but that's a volunteer organization. There's a big difference between a volunteer organization and being an active duty.
do you feel like you were able to adjust to military life okay?
Yes.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. How long was your boot camp?
16 weeks.
16?
Mm-hmm.
Did that include your school training?
No, that was 27 weeks.
Can you tell me some of the things you did for 16 weeks in boot camp?
Learned how to do receivers, transmitters, radar adjustment, repair, installation.
Of ships?
Shipboard, communication equipment. I was an electronics technician, communication.
Okay. And then what took 27 weeks?
Well, you go right through the basics of electronics.
Okay. Do you remember any specific thing that happened during basic training or your school training?
Yeah, I was not really a good leader. I was too immature. But the company commander, or our drill instructor, bosun's mate, first class cook, seemed to like me. I guess, I don't know. Because when we had exercise week, where we do service week, where you were asking about janitorial duties and cooking and all that stuff, I was responsible, made in this capacity. I was made Chief Petty Officer for the headquarters building.
I don't know if is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it was a good thing. I mean, you know, it was me and Mr. Cook taking care of the headquarters building.
Okay. And so does that kind of responsibility get you an accommodation or an award or faster rank? Or
Just lead the company.
Okay. So it gets you respect.
Nah, I didn't get respected all that much.
Okay.
What?
Did you enjoy your job training?
Yeah, it was fine, except well, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't all that great. I didn't get any extra money. I didn't get extra periods. I think I got one extra liberty so I could go to Chicago.
Love to hear about that. How are your grades
Where?
in electronics school?
Average.
Did you feel like you were as smart as they led you up to be? Like you took the test?
I wasn't sure. I still had a lot of learning to do.
Okay. And so a lot of those, I'm 18 and immature, a little bit kind of balancing yourself out, finding yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. You went to Chicago for Liberty. Was that your first time going to Chicago?
Yep.
Did you have fun?
Yep.
What'd you do?
Nothing.
Sailor's honor?
Yeah, well, I went to a couple
Okay.
bars and
Okay.
entertainment centers.
Did when you went from basic training to your school training, you got more liberties and
No.
freedoms, right? Like
Yeah.
liberties and things like that.
Yeah. You got liberty almost every weekend.
Okay. Were you allowed to wear civilian clothes or did you have to stay in your uniform?
Not back then. You had to stay in uniform.
Okay. Were you treated with respect from your the civilians around you?
What civilians? The Navy.
Like, but when you went into town?
Oh, well, yeah, because my buddy that I went to the Navy with, Ron Terzino, was, I'll tell you about this time.
Well, tell me now. Now is good.
Well, Ron and I went in on the buddy plan. Ron stands 6'2".
Okay.
I'm 5'4". But we were very close friends. And finally saw Ron in Pasadena, California, where I was invited to his house for dinner. And my wife was invited also. Only my wife took a bus trip, got delayed, and did not have dinner with us. And I've never heard from Ron again. Thanks to my wife.
John, why are you giggling so?
We were at a meeting for the Academy of Homiletics, and it was at Fuller Seminary. And I took the bus trip down to go to the San Diego Zoo, and that was in Pasadena. And it was the time of the week when those people were coming across from Mexico, across the 5, and several of them were hit by cars. And they had border inspectors going on every bus, every car, checking everything to see if anybody was hiding any illegals. And of course, we were in that traffic jam heading north on the 5. And I was supposed to be back between 4:30 and 5 o'clock. And I never got back to Fuller in Pasadena till it was 11 o'clock at night because of these border inspections that they were having. And so therefore, and back in that day, the people didn't have cell phones, so, like we do now. You had a call from a payphone when the bus stopped. So it wasn't feasible that I was going to let anybody know how late we were going to be because we were in this border inspection.
Have you tried to contact your friends since then?
Oh, yeah. Wrote them letters. Just I never heard from him again.
Well, hopefully he wasn't on that bus. The bus that got caught up, I suppose. Okay, so...
You're the one who wanted to go to these areas.
It's just such a sinister little laugh. I can't. I cannot. Okay, so let's go back. You have this friend, you guys go in on the buddy system. Were you guys the same age?
Yes.
Same grade?
No.
Okay.
No, because I was 2 years behind.
All right. But
I had a learning disability, I guess. And just to her, twice in second grade and fourth grade, I was held back.
Okay. All right. But as we know, those things tend to not stop you from being as great as you should be in life.
We'll see as we go along.
Okay. All right. So, Liberties, we finish with all of our schooling, 16 weeks, then 27 weeks, and electronic tech school. Where's your first duty station? Or what ship do you get sent to?
USS Kansas State.
And where is that docked?
Norfolk, Virginia.
Have you ever been out of Pennsylvania, Eaton, Pennsylvania, before you joined the military?
Out of what?
Had you ever traveled out of Eaton before you had joined?
Easton.
Easton. I
Easton.
apologize. Yeah. Easton.
Well, yeah, I traveled some, I guess. My mother took me around. She's the one who raised me.
With so much enthusiasm, he says. Okay, so we get to Norfolk, Virginia. How do you get there?
Oh, let's see. How did I get there? A train? Reported aboard ship on September 7th. On the 8th, we went to sea for 9 months.
What did you do at sea?
Electronics technician, repairing, tuning, running fuel changes.
Can you walk me through an average day?
Reveille 0600. Morning quarters at 8. Begin command ship's work. Stand watches. A lot of standing radar watches while we were at sea. You do 8 hours of work plus 8 hours of watch. Watch for me was operating radar equipment.
What are you watching for?
You learn how to determine how close you're going to come to other ships. In other words, you plot locations of surrounding ships so that we don't have collisions.
Okay.
So when I would stand watch, we would take turns. I would be on the repeater and then I'd be on the maneuvering board and manipulate and determine relative speed and course, and the relationship of that, the course and speed, with other ships.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting. Then we would do our main task, which is fuel other ships at sea, replenishment.
So you set out for 9 months. I'm assuming you don't aim wanderously in the sea.
No.
You're going someplace.
Yeah, we went to sea, and about 7 days or so we would get to Cadiz, Spain. This is when we first started. We went to the Mediterranean for 9 months.
Did you get off the ship in Spain?
Yeah, we were allowed off for a couple hours, and we took turns.
Can you tell me about how that felt? What'd you see?
At Cadiz, didn't see much at all. Well, we went to Barcelona, went to Valencia. Where else did we go? French coast, Italian Riviera.
So it's 1961?
Yep.
Have you been back to any of these places since then?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Were you still in service when you went back?
No, went back on a cruise. Took my wife on a cruise.
Were you amazed at the differences that you saw from 1961 to whenever you went?
Oh, sure. Things are a lot different.
Did you have any feelings about when you were in the military? Like, did it make you feel nostalgic in any way? Like, oh my goodness, I was here when I was just a boy, you know?
Oh, yeah. I would tell my wife we would tour Pompeii and Naples and Rome again, and I would try to explain to her how things were then and how they are now.
Do you remember these things vividly from when you were a sailor to when you and her went?
I think so, yeah, I think so.
Can you tell me about what you remember from then?
Well, when we pulled into Naples, we wound up spending 30 days in and out of Naples. And I made the acquaintance of a native Italian, Neapolitan.
Girl or boy? Girl or boy?
Oh boy.
Okay.
His name was Small Stores Louis. And Small Stores Louis used to make money by selling uniforms to American sailors. Now, how he did this, I have no idea. But if I wanted a custom cut uniform, all you gotta do is go over to see Small Stores Louis and take them to supper and buy them a spaghetti dinner. And he'd fix you up. Actually, he'd sell you anything you want. This is before the dope days came around. This is before then. But that was kind of interesting. Because I had this custom uniform. It had embroidered cuffs, tight fitting. I looked pretty sexy, I guess.
Hoy, hoy. Alrighty then. So you made friends. What was the most beautiful or amazing or fascinating thing you've seen when you were on that particular trip? Or on that particular mission? Or
Cruise.
okay, okay.
Cruise. Well, I recall not a uniform. Trying to, find myself while I'm doing these other things. I'm going from boy to man. So we went to a lot of ports in that period. Greece, Mallorca, Genoa.
Anything stand out as just being the most amazing thing to you? Anything you write home about? How about that? Anything you sent a letter home about?
Well, probably it's when we pulled into a base in Sicily, naval base in Sicily, and we were not allowed to go into town because it was very pro-communist.
Mm.
So we would have a ship's party on this Italian naval base, and they challenged us to a football game. This had international conflict written all over it. Well, we played them and they just kicked our butts. That's not the kind of football we wanted to play.
Meaning that they played soccer?
Soccer.
And you wanted to play American football?
We wanted to play football,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I had some wild times with that.
All right. Okay.
Especially when first class electricians stole a horse and wagon and started heading out going into town with his horse and wagon. And this Italian just running after him, trying to get his wagon and his horse back. Yeah, I don't know if they reported that to the UN or not.
They might have been too shame.
Might have what?
They might have been too shame. The Americans stole their horse and buggy. I don't think I would have went home and told anybody that happened to me. Okay. So you come home after 9 months of being abroad. You're finding yourself. You're becoming a man. You return to Norfolk. Do you get to go home on a little leave, or what happens?
Yeah, I got a little leave. And matter of fact, I met up to Ron again. He had finished corpsman school. He was assigned to Philadelphia Naval Hospital. So here I am. I go aboard ship. I wind up going to and from the Mediterranean for 9 months. Ron gets assigned to Philadelphia Naval Hospital, 60 miles from home. And I spent a leave, a couple of days with him at their stayed in the barracks. But then came back to the ship, and we took off to Caribbean. And went to various places down there.
What time of year is it?
September, maybe.
What's the weather like?
In Norfolk?
No, in the Caribbean.
Oh, Caribbean. Yeah, it was nice. Good weather.
Okay. What's your mission down there? Is it the same thing, refilling other ships?
Refilling, replenishing different ships, cruising that way.
I'm elated with how exciting that sounds.
Yeah, well, we go ashore. And see, back then, when you go on leave or on liberty, which is what we would call a passage, we had to remain in uniform. It wasn't until after that in '64 where we were allowed to wear civilian clothes. Matter of fact, they preferred you to wear civilian clothes when you went ashore.
Okay. So how long did you do the Caribbean?
Well, let's see. That's before we went to New York. So I don't know. That date's kind of fuzzy about that.
Okay, so Caribbean cruise, then the New York cruise.
Well, no, it wasn't a cruise. We went to the yards.
Into the yards?
Yeah,
What does that mean?
dry dock. Yeah, we in the Brooklyn Navy Yard.
I've heard of this before.
Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Yes.
Or am I being there?
Tell me about you being there.
Okay, so we would go. We put the ship in dry dock. They want to work on the hull of the ship, so they had to put it into a dry dock that they drain all the water out, and then you can work on it, working on tanks or doing welding and what have you. So because of that, the heads, bathrooms, could not be flushed. They couldn't use them because, you'd be working down a dry dock and all of a sudden you're getting rained on. So they would, you could leave the ship and go into the yard a ways, and there would be bathrooms. Well, being the kind of guys that we were, we'd say, go into the head, sir. Very well. We'd step off, get on the dock, turn down the street, and you just keep going until we got to the first bar. So we would be at this place, for some reason, the name Klikowski, Klikowski's Bar or something like that. And we'd all be in there pretty soon. I mean, everybody'd be there. And it was getting to be fall because I recall this because we were wearing jackets. So we'd be down at Klikowski's and somebody would holler, XO's coming, XO's coming. And we'd all dive beneath tables or run into the bathroom or hide behind a bar as the executive officer would come by. And we'd all be in there. Nobody would be back at the ship. We'd all be down at Klikowski's. So that was interesting, especially when they told me to go down and check the sonar disc. Now you would think if you run sonar, it takes a very large disc receiver. And they told me to go down and check this thing. So I'm laying underneath this 70 tons of ship on my back. And I'm thinking, my God, if these things ever break, I'm going to be a spot. And that's it. So that was one instance that stands out on that. And then this is in November of '63. Oh no, 62. 62. And went to bar on Broadway. And my mother came down, and I'd taken her to a show. And I was watching TV on this one bar, and it was Kennedy, President Kennedy, saying about the missiles. And we were to return immediately to the airship and duty assignments. So I get back to the ship, and next thing I know, we're getting underway next morning for the blockade of Cuba. So we traveled down there. We had an admiral on board transporting him, which made our ship a flagship, as if we were something important. We went to Guantanamo Bay and anchored. So here we are anchored in the middle of Gitmo. And all these planes flying over, flares going off. And I remember one night I woke up and went out on deck, and I could see up in the hills, Gitmo surrounded by these hills, and the flashes of light going off. And I thought, boy, we're in for it now. But we got through it. So then we get the missiles are taken out. So we would get underway every day and go out and do exercises, which you always do for shakedown. That's what they call it. Well, we could do the shakedown, and the captain says, well, he says, let's try this exercise. So he says, that's the words. He said, all right, all hands, general quarters. Let's bear down on this ship off in the horizon. So let's close flank speed. Once we're within a mile, turn to this other course. So here we are chasing this ship, and here's a Russian ship taking the missiles out of Cuba. And we're chasing them like they're bringing them in. That was a stupid thing. And the captain's there on the bridge, and his jaw drops. He's looking through the binoculars. He says, oh my God, it's a Russian ship. So then they lifted the blockade. That was a scary experience, because we didn't know if we were going to war or not. So then I spent the next. I got promoted right after that, to third class, ET3. So then I'm realizing how this brain of mine is pretty good brain. And I think, well, I'm going to go back to high school. So I took my discharge. I got an early, 3-month early cut. This is 64, and got an honorable discharge. Went back to high school, full time. Because I said, that detailer said I was smart enough to go for better learning, so that's what I did. And for the 2 years after that, I went to high school every day with the kids. I wanted to be an engineer. I thought maybe that would work, something like that. So, my uncle, my mother's brother, said if I went back to high school and graduated and got into college, he would give me X amount of money to finish my schooling. So I did that. I applied to 2 colleges and got accepted at both colleges. When I went to him, I said, well, time to pay up. And he said, well, the wife and I are going to Hawaii. I don't think I can afford it. So I was going with another young lady at the time who was a nursing student. And one of the classes I was taking was advanced placement biology. So I thought, well, I'll go to nursing school. So I did. That brings me up to 69. And I've been in a nursing school for 3 years, and had the Army accept me into the Army Nurse Corps. So I graduated from nursing school and went in the Army. Stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado. Now there's some rough duty.
I sure was thinking that.
What?
That's some rough duty.
Well, it was. Especially when I came down on levee to go to Vietnam. Which kind of came as a surprise because we were really enjoying Colorado. I mean, I'd hunt and fish, ski. I mean, oh my gosh, those were wonderful times.
Who is we?
Well, I was married. We got married and had a daughter. And so we're out there 2 years. I come down on levee, go to Vietnam. We're supposed to go to Vietnam. And I think, well, you know, gotta do your duty. So I went through the overseas reassignment program. They made me charge nurse of the violent psychiatric ward. And I've got 3 corpsmen and 2 MPs that are always on duty with me. And I get ready for Vietnam, so I have to do this preparation course, which back then was to go through an ambush course, qualify with an M16, and then go through this jungle training in the mountains of Colorado. So I get called up to the chief nurse's office. What do I do now? And she says to me, she says, Lieutenant, I understand you came down on levee for Vietnam, is that correct? I said, yes, ma'am. She says, would it upset your plans if we canceled your orders? And I said, well, what do you mean? She says, well, you're the last male nurse I got. And I said, well, I'm on levee. Once you came on levee, you're going. And she said, well, I need you here. And they had me off in 30 minutes. Now, I've often come to regret that. Even though I'm newly married and have a child, I thought it was my duties to do as ordered. What's the matter?
Nothing.
And I often regret that because I felt it was my duty to have gone. Because there's always consequences. And consequences for me was that about 6 months later, I get called to a chief nurse's office again. And she says to me, Lieutenant, I have orders now to be chief nurse of Korea. And I want you to come along. And I said, well, I'm going to volunteer to go to Korea. I said, if I get orders to go, I go. Well, I'm not going to volunteer. Well, my status went from here down to nothing. And I felt, well, I don't think I'm going to make much of a career here. So I was coming time to get out. So I put in paperwork to be in the Navy again. So that's how I wound up back in Navy Nurse Corps. I go to Newport, Rhode Island for training. And then back to, then I was sent to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina with the Marines. And did that for 2 years. And then I got rifted.
And for civilians that don't know what that means?
Reduction in force.
Okay.
So when the Vietnam War was closing down, and by this time I'm a lieutenant, 03 lieutenant. And he said, well, thanks for the service, don't let the door hit you on the way out. So off I go.
What year is it?
73.
I think about 73, yeah.
Yeah, 73.
Okay, so I have a few questions. So in '69, after you get regular nurse training out in the civilian world, correct?
Right.
And that took 3 years to do?
3-year program, yes.
Okay, and so that would have made you the equivalent of an RN?
Wasn't equivalent, I was an RN.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were an RN. So then when you came over into the Army, what was your equivalent that made you an officer?
Second lieutenant.
Okay, so you came in and then they made you do Army training? You went into an Army training for nursing?
Yes.
How long did that take?
Oh, let me think for that. 6 weeks, I think. About 6 weeks.
Did they give you an accelerated program?
Yeah. We went to Fort Sam Houston, and that's where they did Army training for Nurse Corps. And that was wild. I mean, you watch the movie MASH, the TV show. Believe me, they could have filmed that right there at Fort Sam. There must have been 250 doctors, dentists, pharmacists, psychologists, and nurses. And we had to go through this infiltration course and then do land navigation. And with these guys, it was crazy. I mean, one of the things we had to do was the infiltration thing of crawling on your back underneath machine gun fire, And I'm going along doing this thing, and I run into some people, and here they are pointing up at the sky, saying, well, that's this star, and that's this star, and live machine gun fires going over on top of us. It was nuts.
Really? Because we did that in basic.
Well,
but you weren't Army.
Yeah, no, this is the Army one I'm talking about.
I know, but that's how they trained us in basic. We had to do that more than once.
Yeah, right. For soldiers and
I know. I'm so sorry.
Not officers. And then
just us enlisted folk, us little people.
And then we'd come to the end of this crawling thing, and here were these other people drinking beer. They had gone through the infiltration course with 6 packs of beer under their coats. And I heard these people as I'm coming along saying, oh, there goes another one. And here they had this sharper area. All the other ones went kind of down like that, except this one went down and straight down. And these guys are sitting there laughing their butts off, sipping beer, saying, well, here goes another one. And the guy would come off and boom, fall. It was about a 4-foot drop. Oh, that was crazy. That was crazy.
I'm happy you made it.
Yeah. Well, didn't have much choice.
So, I was a diesel mechanic. Most people know that by now that listen to these interviews. And I saw a lot of sexism my way for being in that field. Did you experience any of that?
Any what?
Sexism?
Baptism?
Sexism. Because you were a male nurse and that was not common in those days.
Well, no, for nurses it wasn't fair because the females got the commissions. It wasn't until the late 50s that males got commissioned.
So then,
otherwise, it was just you could be an RN and you join the Army, you'll be a private. And it wasn't until the late 50s where they give commissions.
what I'm asking you is because it's a field predominantly ran by women, did you ever feel excluded because of that? Did you ever get special treatment because you were a man in that?
I'll tell you the special treatment we get. New Year's Day, commander's reception. Hospital commander's reception. We go to that, and there were 4 of us, 4 males, and they had us pouring tea. I really felt that it was discriminatory because they didn't have any females doing it, but they had us doing it.
Okay. During your everyday work, was that okay? Did the women treat you as equals?
It depended. Some did, some didn't.
Why do you think they treated you differently?
Revenge. Sometimes, I guess. I don't know.
Did the male doctors treat you indifferently? Differently, not indifferently.
Doctors were good to work with.
They were difficult?
No, they were different to work with.
Even
than what they were in civilian life.
Can you give me more information?
Well, they trying to think of an example. An example would be, the incident with the Army and the male nurse on a violent psychiatric ward. I mean, you know, I want you, I'm gonna change your orders because I want you to stay here. You know, because I'm the last male nurse. I mean, that's what she told me.
Okay, I see. Yeah, which is unfair to you, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sure, it's fine having to go to Vietnam, but I still should have gone. I mean, I had an obligation there.
Okay.
You only had, what, 3 nurses, 5 nurses get killed in Vietnam. It's pretty low.
So, when you went back to the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
you had to do training again. How long was that training?
6 weeks.
I feel like you had to be the best RN.
That's
just
right.
in
I went through 3.
You just had to be the best RN walking the earth in the 70s, right? Like
3 basic courses.
yeah, like you had to be the best. So is after you left all of your military training, after all those years, you've given the country the best of you. Did you get out and stay an RN?
Well, I get out. I was going to go to anesthesia school in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And how long did we last?
Maybe 2 years or so.
Was it 2 years?
Not 2 years.
About 2 years, and they closed the program. So it was start all over again or find something else to do. So with my wife, we look at what life is and decide, well, I think I want to go to seminary.
Well, you started with Penwall Chemical, though.
Well, yeah, then I worked as a pharmaceutical salesman. And did that for a while.
What's a while? Years or months?
Couple years.
Couple
Okay.
years.
Yeah. And
We moved to Maryland for him to do that.
so I'm close to Lutheran Theological Seminary in Gettysburg. So I feel the Lord's called me. So I went to seminary. And one of the programs that you have in seminary is you go to what we refer to as CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education. And I look at that and I think, well, I can go to that. Most of the people go to a hospital. Well, I'm not going to do that. I've just spent 20 years working in hospitals. So I think instead, what other programs they have? Well, we have a program at Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary. I said, well, that sounds interesting. I'll try that. Well, that introduces me to a realm of that I never thought I would enter. But I felt the call of God to work in prison. So I became a prison chaplain in Ohio. So we moved.
But in order to go to seminary, he first had to get his
I had to get
bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
So he went to Mount St. Mary's.
So back to school, and so I go back to Mount St. Mary's for, what was it, 2 years?
Yeah, till you got your degree.
Yeah.
And then
Got
went to
my degree.
seminary.
Got my degree in 2 years. And got accepted at Gettysburg. And felt the call of God directing me to prison ministry. So I became a prison chaplain.
How long? Oh,
26 years ago.
In 1986.
and is that what you do currently?
What?
Do you still do prison chaplain work?
Well, all kind of, yeah. I mean, I'm retired now. I have this beautiful mansion.
Did you have a religious upbringing?
No,
Didn't you? Something happened and you just felt something?
no, it's just felt cold, that's all. No, I went to Gettysburg and had a professor that kind of took me under his wing. And he was a former prison chaplain.
Hmm.
And in fact, he had been chaplain at Alcatraz.
Wow.
He's still there? No.
Yes.
Yeah, Henry Stevens.
Kessler.
Hmm?
Henry Kessler.
Yeah, Kessler. So I looked at all my experiences and all that, and preparation. Thought it was the right thing to do.
So it's important, one individual was important in that moment in your life.
Yes. Henry, because I wasn't sure that was for where I should go. But Henry really encouraged me.
So, your wife, when did you meet her?
Oh, that's when we worked together in ICU when I graduated from nursing school. We got married in 1969.
And she supported you joining the military
Yes,
and then followed you out to Fort Carson?
yes. And Camp Lejeune.
I assume the rest. You were born in Pennsylvania. Where were you from?
7 miles from where he was from.
And did you guys know each other at all?
Not before then. Not before. I was working in ICU at Easton, the hospital there, and he had been a student.
Yeah, and then I worked with you. And I got when I passed my license, and I worked for her. I still work for her.
Life is funny that way. Now you have a daughter,
Yes.
and she where she works at, does she work there because of your experiences?
What?
In the prison.
She
Sister,
didn't work with me.
does that influence have something to do with where she works?
Well, I had suggested that to her. She came out here. She graduated from Ohio State, and she worked for Children's Services in Bellefontaine.
Okay.
In Logan County, and had worked there and had been with Children's Services, I believe, about 15 years. And then sort of needed a change once she worked with Children's Services that long. And then she applied and went to work for the Department of Corrections.
Okay. Okay.
That encouraged that, you know.
Do you-
Because her county experience then went, her years counted toward
her retirement.
retirement, yeah,
Okay.
because of staying with the
Yeah.
program.
Right.
Do you worry about her out there, knowing what you know?
No.
Okay.
A lot safer within the prison system than when she was working with Children's Services, I think, and on the road, and doing things like that.
Why do you ask that?
Well, I have a little girl, and if she joined the Army, she followed in my footsteps. I wonder how much I would worry. And so your little girl has followed in your footsteps. And so I was curious, one parent to another, if you worry. That's why I asked.
No, she's fine.
You have a lot of faith, sir. But I guess there are a whole lot of bars in between her and the bad people. Whereas if she did what I did, there would not be a whole lot of bars in between her and the bad people. Just a lot of bullets. All right, so I have a few more questions to ask you, unless there's some stuff you just want to share. Anything you want to get off your chest?
Jeez, I've been talking for a whole hour.
That is true. I guess you want me to wrap this up?
What's the name of my ship?
It is the
Now you gotta look.
I got it.
it's the USS named after places in New York.
No.
It is. It's
A place in New York.
a there's several of them.
Rivers.
Rivers in New York.
Indian.
Indian
With
rivers.
Indian
in-
names.
Indian names in New York. I will have it. It will be right for you.
Canasteo.
Canasteo. I know it was a Kowalski bar that I'm gonna look up when I leave here. I got that part for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd love to get
Or the
them.
GNR in Waldo.
Yeah, right.
Definitely.
Oh yeah,
looking-
there's stuff. I didn't tell you. I've been on the bottom and the top of that ship. Because one time they had me take our UHF antennas off of the yardarms. An hour I stood, standing out at the end of the mast. There's a sea pipe that had these antennas on the end of them. I had to stand there and hold on with one hand, and with one hand take these antennae off. And I wrenched it from my hand and fell all the way down, right by this open hatch. Boom! It's just thing. All of a sudden, the head looks up there. There was the captain. And I mean, you talk about being scared. Oh my gosh.
You made it through it though.
I took one of those antennas off, and that's about all.
Okay. Did you were you able to stay in were you able to stay in contact with anybody else that you met in the military?
Yes, when I was at my psychiatric rotation in
And which
Philadelphia,
okay.
at, I got in touch with Mike Kennedy, who was a real nutcase. He wasn't a patient, though he probably would make a good one. But it was great being invited over to his house and met his wife, who I had heard so much about. And this is my second year of nursing school. And I don't know if he worked for Sears, so who knows where he is today. I'm trying to think. And then I went to some reunions. Been to 2 reunions so far. The Canasteo underwent a conversion where they practically sawed the ship in half, added 30 feet to it, and converted it to an AOE, they call it. So I've gone to these conventions, and I don't know if I'm going to go to them. anymore because there's nobody there who's on the ship when I was on it. All people that came afterwards. So I've seen a couple guys on Facebook. One guy was a commissaryman, cook. He was a Native American. Keep trying to remember what his name was. This guy was on our ship, and we'd go over and just get blasted. And I remember he came back to the ship one time. We were in Naples at Anchorage, and it was with my buddy Dolan, John Dolan, and he was here, and behind him was this cook. I want to say McDiver, but that's not right. And I was behind him, and we were very high out of the water because the tanks were up. And this crazy Indian guy fell through the safety line, and he's holding on to a bag of popcorn. And he falls through, and he's dangling. John's got his arm, I've got his foot, he's got his popcorn. And we haul him in. And he said, "Oh, thank you guys. I almost lost my popcorn." He's a crazy Indian.
Did the military help you pay for any of your colleges or your home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's my GI Bill. When I went back to high school,
Mm-hmm.
I used some then, and then when I was in nursing school, I got some, and I got some when I was in anesthesia school.
I'm confused. You needed to pay to go to high school?
No, he got, what was that? He got a stipend of some kind.
No, I went to
He
high
dropped
school.
out, remember, and then he went back.
But you went back to regular high school. You had
Yeah.
to pay to go back to regular high school?
Well, I had to live somehow.
Oh, you didn't go back home to mom's house and just re-enroll?
No, when I went back to high school, I don't think I used much of my GI Bill then.
Okay.
You used it when you went to nursing school,
Nursing school,
but then you were a part of the nurse program, and then you used it,
and I was on scholarship.
that's right.
Okay.
And then you used it at Mount St. Mary's.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think you used any of it for seminary, did you?
No, I think it's.
I don't think it
I think it was
pays for
spent.
that.
It was spent.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you have been to some reunions for the Canis
There you go.
Deo, right?
That's right.
And you don't think you'll be going back because there aren't any vets that were on the ship when you were on the ship.
Right.
I think you got to show these youngsters what it was like in your day. That's what I think.
No, they don't.
They're all, though, most of them are retired now, too.
Well, they got
So
all
Hugh's 77, so a lot of those folks that they're retired, but they're in their late 50s, early 60s, so they're not really youngsters anymore, and nobody younger comes.
Does the ship still exist?
No, I think I shaved with this morning. No, I went to the breakers.
Did it?
And the Clusahatchee. Went to breakers in England.
Are you a member of any other veterans organizations?
American Legion.
Seems to be a popular one. Okay. What are some life lessons that you've learned from your military service?
Well, don't try to take VHF antennas with one hand.
Hang on to your wrench.
Okay.
Work hard. The Kansas Day was a hard ship to work on. Because we would have refueling that would last 24 hours, continuous. Ship after ship after ship would come up alongside, we refuel, replenish.
Is there anything that you feel like we haven't discussed or that should be added to this interview?
I don't know, what do you suggest? What is it, what else do you think you want to know? What else do you deserve to know?
What's your favorite memory?
Getting married.
Tell me about that.
What, we've been married 50 years?
So you don't remember it?
No.
You just said it was your favorite memory. I want to know.
No, yeah, I think getting married was significant. Meaning for both of us. And plus, we experienced so much of this together. We talked about that at our 50th anniversary dinner we had.
So being married or getting married?
Both.
Yeah. Because we sort of grew up together then. Because you're in your early 20s, you know.
I want to hear about the wedding day now.
You want to hear what?
What happened on the wedding day? What?
We got married and we went to New York State
Yeah.
in the fall.
Yeah.
Was the
Leaves were beautiful.
Married,
Went to a play.
We honeymooned in New York City,
Was it just the two of you?
We went to
Maine La Mancha.
went to see Marion La Mancha on Broadway, and then went up along the Hudson, saw the leaves, and
Stayed over at West Point.
Alrighty. Okay. Sounds like a beautiful day. Alrighty. All right. Last question.
Okay, what?
You ready?
What?
Okay. What message would you like to leave for future generations who will hear or view this interview?
Join us. Join us in uniform. Take that training, that sense of service as a veteran. That serve the love of country.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That. Okay. That concludes our interview with Hugh J. Daley. Thank you for your time today and for your military service.